Hello everybody, I am the Sage of Games and welcome to HardSpace Ship Breaker. Now I know my channel is mostly known pre-Kappa scare thing from last year that most of my channel was known for space engineers, and you can think of this game as being its polar opposite. Instead of building ships, you're working as a salvager, tearing them apart, trying to work off a massive debt of about $1 billion. So yeah, that's all fun and stuff. So this game is in early access. It came out on Steam about 2, maybe 3 months ago. The thing that brought me to this is I was watching one of Space Doc's videos, and they were sponsored by the developers, and saw a little bit of the gameplay footage. I thought, oh, that might be fun. So a couple months later, when I finally got the money for it, I went ahead and downloaded it. There has been some changes made to the game since then, like for instance this right here is no longer the only mode in the game. In this one your shift is 15 minutes, you have unlimited lives, but you know, 15-minute shifts not really a lot of time to do very much. And after you get to a certain point you unlock these other options here, such as no revival, which means you get 1 life. And there's no such thing as a second chance. If you die, it is game over and you're starting over from the beginning. This one over here, you have 30 revives for the entire campaign, so you really don't want to do stuff that's gonna get you killed. And then this one over here, which is the one I like best, is open shift. It's basically this one, but without the 15-minute time clock. So, and one thing this does do is it gives you the option to play with an oxygen drain enabled or not, and I always have it on just to make it a little bit more real. So, just to give you a basic rundown, these are the different kinds of ships that you can dismantle. There's actually more being worked on to be added. The next one that they're planning on adding is another variant of the Gecko class. It's a salvage ship. So basically, you're salvaging a ship that salvages other ships, and chances are it's being brought to your salvage yard with salvage still in its cargo hold. So kind of like salvaging a ship within a ship in a ship. So basically, what you got here is the smaller vessels are called mackerels. You got civilian cargo vessels, civilian transit, industrial cargo, which is another way of saying it's a heavier cargo ship than this one. These ones are referred to in the campaign as station hoppers, but they're basically transport vessels. And then when you get to the geckos, there's this one, which is a commercial. Pretty much it's like a heavy passenger liner. I've taken a few of these apart, and they basically have enough seating inside for maybe 50, 60 people. These ones are basically the bigger version of this one. You see they're both labeled as industrial. So whereas like these just have more of the medium-sized cargo crates, these things have like full-on semi-truck containers stored in their cargo holds. And then these vessels they're still considered Gecko class, but where these are like where these two are 3 segments wide. You'll see what I mean when I go to dismantle one. These are only 2, but they have more complex hardware to take apart. So in a way, despite being a smaller ship, you get about the same reward. Also, to give you a little explanation of this up here, where it says welcome back Cutter, the Sage of Games number 2, because number 1 is the one where you're on a time limit. On this profile, I still have $924,583,608 on the dot to work off. Now this here is the free mode, where you can basically just take a ship and take it apart to your heart's content. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and load up one of these and use it as a way to show you what not to do. And we'll start with one of the smaller vessels. So Supplies such as fuel, O2, patch kits, med kits can sometimes be scavenged from ships. Now that is another thing. You do have to pay for your supplies, which will add to the amount of debt you have to work off. But some of the supplies that you'll need will actually be inside the ship, where you can salvage them for yourself. And what that little tip right there is not telling you is that the little keys you have to use in order to purge a ship's fuel lines that cost like 50,000 credits each can also be found inside these wrecks. So this here's the work area. I need to stop myself there. Yeah, unlike my Space Engineers videos, I don't have automatic braking. Okay, so to give you guys a little idea of what's going on here, you probably can't see it behind my picture in the corner of the screen, but up there in the top left it says I have 1,000 tethers. Basically, a tether would be something. Well, here, let me cut this. Let me switch to my laser cutter. This is one of the tools you get, and I got to cut it loose from the inside. Okay. So I'm going to show you the wrong way to enter one of these rigs. See, this here is one of the lighter cargo vessels. It's got this nice little cargo hatch up here. Now, if we press T, we can open up our scanner here. You'll see these little yellow things right there. Those are called cut points. That is where your laser cutter, which is tool number 2, can sorry about that. For some reason my computer does not like running a game and my recording software at the same time. But anyway, basically what it does, basically that. Now if you press 2 again, you get this other alternate cutter head, which does this bit of awesomeness. Oh, it looks like that part of the ship was actually aluminum and not nanocarbon. Or was it? Panel, nanocarbon. Oh, that's right. In free play, this cutter will cut through just about anything. Anyway, here's the wrong way to gain entry into one of these ships. You'll see now, see there how all those rooms are nicely labeled. Got the engine room over there. Got, let's see, compartment, cockpit, crawl space, airlock. And then this other mode of the scanner lets you see stuff that's inside the vessel. Things like resources, cargo, components. That there's a thruster right, or the engine right there. There's a reactor. Oh, now this is a good one to pay very close attention to. This shows you where certain things like fuel and coolant are, along with electrical components and radiation sources. Always a good idea to pay attention to this one. And then that green thing right there is the control panel we use to purge the fuel from these nacelles and that thruster assembly over there. So, getting back to your tools, this here's your grappler. It does 3 things. First, it lets you pull stuff off of the outer hull, like so. Now, as for where to deposit this, because you can see we got a bunch of these little things that stuff can go into. Whoops. Get out of there. So we got the furnace over there, which is for things like soft metals, processor for complex components, and then we got a barge down there for more intricate components. Now, if you look down on the bottom of my interface, just above where it shows where my fuel and health is, you'll see, if I can get into looking at a contrasting thing here, you'll see that up there it says, or right up there above where it says O2 and then 800 seconds, it says I'm holding an antenna, On the right it shows it weighs 9 kilograms, and then it says the word barge, and that means that is where it gets deposited. So that brings me to the second function of the grapple tool, which is force push.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
Thank you for that little update. Now there's the third function of this tool. This mainly only applies really to heavy objects, but you can use it for just about anything. Is the use of the tethers, which is basically hold down the right mouse button, put one end of the tether on the end on that antenna there, and place the other end on the barge, and there it goes. Now, of course, the heavier objects are not going to move that quick. Okay, so this door here, you're going to see it says it goes on the barge. So let's see what we can do about that. We'll give it a place on the barge to go. But, oh well, that one didn't take. So, oh, here's one of the wrong things, is sending something to the wrong processing deal here. So we're gonna put a tether to get that to go that way, and then we're gonna decompress the inside of the ship, which is one of the other things you don't do.
Air pressure level decreasing.
Now there's a number of reasons why you don't do that.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
That also goes on the barge, if I'm not mistaken. Like I said, bigger stuff is not going to get pulled by a single tether that quickly.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
Oh yeah, see, I sent that cargo hatch in there, but it really goes on the barge. You'll get in trouble for sending things to the wrong place. But like I said, this is pretty much like if you were playing reverse Space Engineers at a recycling center. Now, one thing that's not present in this mode, because after all, this is just really for practice and or intentionally messing up, if that's your thing, is pressing tab is not bringing up a work order, because there's not one. But if there was, you can imagine it would involve stuff like taking out this and putting it on the barge. Careful you don't get electrocuted.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Now, if you get this game, you're probably going to develop your own personal standard procedure for taking one of these ships apart. But here's a couple of things to keep an eye out for. For one thing, these things will zap your ass until you're dead if you're not careful, so we're going to not be careful. And we're going to accidentally force push this thing into a wall. Wait, where'd it go? Why is there no shocking? Wait, is that thing still in good enough condition to go on the barge? Wow, somehow it is. Oh, I got an idea. Now, one thing you're definitely not going to want to do is something that's going to set off a massive fuel detonation. Because that's going to do a number of things. For starters, oh yeah. For starters, now that reactor over there is in meltdown. Ooh.
Salvage destroyed.
Ooh. Now that's a thing of beauty right there, watching one of those reactors explode.
Explosive activity observed.
Oh, yeah. Let's see what kind of damage we got here. Wow. That destroyed a lot of stuff.
Material deposited.
What? Material deposited. Oh wow, some of the stuff that got blown off of that ship actually got thrown into the furnace and processed as scrap, which it pretty much is at this point. Hey, where'd you come from? Oh yeah. So yeah, think of this as like if space engineers had an aspect to it where when you took a ship apart, you actually had to sort its constituent pieces into recycle bins. You know, the windows go over here, the hull plating goes over there, the electronical hyperactive reactor core goes over there. So, basically kind of like that, but way more fun. Now, the thing that I found surprising, actually, you know what, I'm going to lower that volume a little bit. Music. Yeah, see, unlike Markiplier, I don't have an editor to help control or to post-process my volume controls into being lower than they are. Wow, that is actually still pretty loud. Maybe I'll turn that down a little bit too. There we go. Oh, that's a little better. So yeah, those right there are good examples of what not to do. Otherwise, this happens, and if your computer's actually a little bit lower grade than mine is, this kind of mess right here might crash your GPU. So, yeah, you might not want to do that. I mean, I'm running the NVIDIA GTX 1050, which is an older card that was pretty bomb back in the day a few years ago, but yeah, it's not the best. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into career mode where everything else is, where we're going to take a ship apart using a procedure that I like to call the right way, though I will probably still somehow screw something up. Because, you know, sometimes even I forget to check my atmospheric scanners, and I will still sometimes accidentally decompress a room. Okay. So, let's see here. In this menu, this is where you check your certifications. The higher certifications means you can take apart more complex, more expensive starships. For instance, right now I'm at certification level 7, so and I can take apart up to a class 5 ship. The geckos start showing up around class 4, but they're not very expensive. The class 5 ones are worth tens of millions of dollars, but at the low end of tens of millions, like on the order of 14 or 15 million dollars if you salvage the entire thing. Oh, and one thing I will show you when we get into the ship selection thing, there is a stat that says that, oh yeah, if you salvage this much mass, but if it shows that, like, if you know at the end of your last ship your salvage bay was empty, but it says that you only salvaged 33 out of 35 tons of starship, chances are the other 2 tons was material that was destroyed by your laser cutter when you started cutting things out. So, Yeah, just because it says there's like 2 more tons of Starship remaining in your salvage bay doesn't mean there is. What it's saying is that you salvaged 34 out of the 35 tons and the other ton was vaporized. So once I have recovered 45 million credits worth of stuff and I recover another, I think that's 87 more electrical components, another 18 mechanical ones, and I complete another 20 something objectives. 33 more objectives. Then I move on to this rank where I can take apart Class 6 ships, which is the largest the game has right at this moment. And in order to get to Class 9, I have to do like 140 objectives, which are on the work orders that I mentioned, but I'll show you what those are. 5 engine control units, which are interesting pieces of machinery. Science ones, then it will be 5. But then it's going to take you 5 ships at least in order to complete this objective anyway. So you could do the science ships on for this objective and you'll complete these 2 at the same time. And then credits, you have to earn $96,500,000 from salvage. Once all these are done, you move on to 9, which these are the requirements for 9. Metal, when it says metal or nanocarbon, let's see. Here we go. Like, for instance, aluminum. That's going to be most of your interior walls and framework, things like that. Nanocarbon is things like your hull plates. Metal is just aluminum, titanium, basically anything that is not nanocarbon. But then you also got to extract a lot of electrical and mechanical, which those are going to basically mean probably passenger liners. And then this one, if you complete this and you get rank 10, which is all certification ranks complete, you get promoted to the rank of Red Seal. And whenever Class 7 starships are introduced, well, you'll probably unlock those with rank 9 anyway. Now, over here, comms and data. You will at some point find data. Well, not at some point. On practically every ship, you will find data drives containing corrupted and degraded data, and you come here to extract the data, and you'll earn Lynx tokens, which are up here. You also earn these by completing objectives on your work orders, and you use those to upgrade your tools and equipment. Some of these also contain audio logs too. Like, let's see here. Captain Ellen Romano audio log.
The first time you do a run on the rails, you're going to be miserable. I mean, it's bad. You're going to hit that first gate and get 50 Gs, and that's, well, it's a bit like putting your finger in an electrical mount. It's a jolt, but then the first accelerator comes, and the next one. And they come faster and faster. You're going to be hitting accelerator after accelerator, each one with 50 Gs, and another, and another. And you're going fast, but really alls you feel is that jolt getting faster and faster. Some of us get used to the Gs, and become zeros, riding the rails, but some never do and have to find a way to handle it, or they wash out.
Yeah, so stuff like that. And for some reason they're all done in like a text-to-speech voice synthesizer, but you know, this game is still pretty new, so I imagine that at some point, whenever they're able to get somebody to actually do the voiceovers professionally, if they do go that route, I'm pretty sure they'll do that. Let's see. this here is your equipment interface. Now, one thing about the equipment is that whenever you get done with a shift, you're going to get hit with a bill that says, because you're renting your equipment from the company you work for, some of the progress you made is actually going to be backtracked a little bit because you have to pay for your rental fees and all that crap. So, like for instance, for example, all this stuff has to, you have like a separate rental fee for it, but some of this stuff, like not the work suit, but like the helmet for instance, if you get this bottom upgrade, purchase helmet, purchase scanner, purchase thrusters, you know what that does is that even though it takes a lot of Lynx tokens to buy those, it actually will eliminate that component of the daily fee that you have to pay, which reduces the slowdown on your progress. And then these upgrades also enhance your tool's performance. Like this one, for instance, enhances the range of the laser when it's in its stinger mode. This one enhances the range when it's in split saw mode, which is where you get the two lasers that start in the middle and they spread out. This one increases heat capacity, which is how long the laser can be running continuously before it overheats and sets you on fire. This one is how fast the laser cools down when it's not being used. These upgrades refer to the range of the grapple tool, how much pulling force it gives you. I like these little bits of flavor text, like oh yeah, replace the classified redacted medium with this new redacted medium. Oh, but by the way, you got to sign these agreements to purge Lynx Corporation of any liability in case you like kill yourself with the grapple tool. You know, so that your next clone can't sue them. These refer to the tethers. Right now I can hold up to 25 tethers. The maximum is 50, but you got to be ranked 10 for that. Tether lifetime right now is 1 minute. It was 30 seconds, but now it's a minute. This makes it 2 minutes, which I can get that with the next rank up. These have to deal with that force push effect. You can charge it up. But there's a bit of, well, actually not a bit. There is a crap ton of Newton's third law that is applied here when it comes to you, a scrawny little human person in a spacesuit, using a grapple tool to force push something that weighs 3 or 4 tons. And that is, when you try to force push something that weighs 3 or 4 tons, chances are it's not going to get moved at all, and you are going to get flung backwards hard. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Thrusters, basically your standard increasing top speed, increasing braking force, increasing fuel capacity. The cross-spectrum scanner, these are like this is purchasing like the 3 different modes it gives you. Range, and then purchasing the scanner. The helmet is just oxygen capacity, oxygen recharge, which you can actually recharge your oxygen in your suit if you go into a pressurized environment. Sit there and do nothing. This upgrade is pretty much worthless on the mode where you have just a 15-minute shift, because even with the full upgrade at a recharge of 2 per second, and if you have, say, an oxygen capacity of 800, it's going to take you 400 seconds, or roughly about half your shift if your oxygen had just run out. It'll take you more than half your shift to recharge your suit. And in the work suit, this is just basically like a suit of armor that protects you from different things. So let's get started with the ship, shall we? Now, when you're just coming in to, loading your save, and this is the first ship you're taking apart today, if you still had a ship you were working on when you last quit the game, it'll be gone. So you come over here to View Ship Catalog, and if you start over here, this is like a training vessel. This is the Class 1. Class 2s are all mackerels. It's all either passenger liners or light cargo vessels. Class 3 is the heavier mackerels. They're overall the same ship design, but with some differences. More stuff on them that makes them more valuable. Class 4, these are all going to be station hoppers. Class 5, which is where I'm at. You got ships that are basically, let's see, heavy cargo, station hopper, heavy cargo, station hopper. You'll occasionally see some science ships. Now, this interface over, this information panel over here, you got the total mass of the ship, which, oh, and by the way, difficulty hard. That means it's going to be very easy to blow yourself to pieces. So this ship weighs 152,000 tons. Oh wait, kilograms. So it's 152 metric tons. Total value, $13,888,280, and that is if you were able to salvage the entire ship without accidentally or purposefully having to destroy any components, which, by the way, is impossible. Because, for one thing, you're going to have to, even when you strip away all the outer hull and all you got left is the internal framework, well, that is all going to have to be fed into a furnace, but the whole thing is too heavy for your tethers. So you're going to have to cut that into segments, which is going to mean destroying some of that mass and with it some of the value. But then also, that internal framework also has valuable stuff that needs to be put either on the barge or it needs to be thrown into the processor, which is that blue portal looking thing. Because if you throw something into the wrong portal, it'll say penalty applied, which aside from the fact that you don't get the value on this to work off your billion credit debt, it might also, I think, though I have not been able to confirm this, I think it might also take whatever the value was of the item, and it applies that debt back to what you owe. Now, core systems, I don't know what these symbols here mean because there's no tooltip for them yet. But for instance, this has a Class 2 reactor and an engine control unit. So there's none of those little purple power cell things. There might be little purple battery packs attached to the furniture or control panels or whatever. For hazard ratings down here, we got fire, freezing because you could rupture a coolant tank. The reason why it's a 5 dot for this and a 4 dot for this is there's more coolant tanks than there are fuel. Electrical risk, that one's low. This one is a high risk of explosions. Definitely don't want to get blown up because it costs you $150,000 every time you get respawned. Now, as for resources, this here is nanocarbon. That's metal. That there's aluminum. These ones, I don't know why they even bothered putting them in there because they make up so little of the ship's mass that in order for furniture to even be 1%, that would mean that this station hopper would need to have a capacity of about 300 chairs. And it doesn't. Mechanicals, 2%. Electrical, 0%. Which is saying something considering that there's usually like 50 or 60 computer consoles that you can extract. So, yeah. And then like this one here's cargo. 11% of this mass is heavy cargo containers. Again, low electrical risk. So, yeah. Now this, by the way, is no indication of the ship's actual paint job. Or at least what the ship will look like. This is a general design appearance for a cargo gecko. But as for the actual like color scheme and decaling, depends on the company that last owned the ship, which in the case of the Salty Callisto Mark 8 and the Hardy, they were both owned by Hudson Industry. The Alien 12 and the Callisto were both owned by Tiber Transplanetary, and they're both station hoppers, so they may actually look identical. If not be completely identical. Now, the strategy that I use here, because this is a whole work off your debt kind of a scenario here, I always go through and I will pick the one that has the highest stat right here, total value. So that one's 13.8 mil, 14.2, 13.9. Okay, so the station hoppers are out. So it's between this ship here and this one immediately is less than 14 million. So we're taking this one apart. Okay, claiming a new ship will clear the salvage bay of your existing ship. All remaining salvage will be forfeit till Lynx begins salvage. Well, duh, I don't have anything else to take apart. Use your scanner to assess structural layout and plan your disassembly. Yeah, I found that the best thing to do is to first decompress the entire ship's interior and then begin cutting off the outer sections and then working your way in. I found that to be easiest. And it also works best on that mode where you only have like a 15-minute shift. You can do multiple 15-minute shifts to try and take more of the ship apart over time, but you have to remember that every 15-minute shift you do, you have to make sure you're going to at least get half a mil, otherwise you'll start going backwards and trying to clear yourself of any debt. Okay, so being a heavy cargo ship, this thing for some reason has a blade of armor panels and a crap ton of sensor towers and antennas. So we're going to go ahead and take these apart.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Now, one thing you might find will happen on occasion is you'll take an antenna off the hull and it will say that it needs to go into the furnace and not the barge, and that's because for whatever reason the antenna was destroyed by the removal process. Now, another thing too is that when you get to working on these bigger ships, let me switch to my scanner here. Here we go. Okay, so this here, if you look into that bottom section there just above where my oxygen is, says that it's a sensor array and it goes on the barge. But you can see it's reflecting my lasers. So how do you cut this thing off? Well, then that's where you switch to your little X-ray scanner. See those four little cut points inside there? You have to actually destroy those in order to cut that loose, and it's the same with this one over here. And then it's also same story over here with these armor plates. You have to remove the cut points in order to free them. Now normally the laser in this mode would be perfect, but the thing is that in order to heating these to the point that they melt and I can extract those armor plates requires more heat tolerance than what the laser has in its current form, so we're going to use the split saw mod, which carries the risk of accidentally damaging the panel. But there is a way to safely do this. See, what I like to do is that little line in the center there, I like to use that as a guide, and I just do that. 2 quick pulses and the panel's free. Oh yeah, look at that. Now when a panel that you're picking up has a blue outline, generally that means it's free to be manipulated by your grapple tool. That goes in the furnace. So we'll put a tether on that.
Deposit accepted.
So that's all there is to that. At least when it comes to extracting the things like these armor plates. Which we'll go ahead and get these other two and we'll just get them out of the way. Now one thing that you may have noticed is that when I fired the laser with it in split saw mode, it kind of like pushed me back a little bit. There's a way around that. Press down on left control to activate your thruster brakes, and whenever you fire, you won't get pushed back. And so we come back over here, line up the laser.
Raw material processed. Credits deposited.
There we go. Now there's a reason why you want to cut those off early. You see the material underneath those plates. Well, that's actually aluminum, I think, but see, like, that's nanocarbon. See how the lasers get reflected, and even the split saw can't cut it. So what we're gonna have to do, because nanocarbon goes in the processor and all other all other base metals goes into the furnace, and putting one in the other's sorting bin comes with a penalty that you get in trouble for.
Airlock pressure levels dropping.
Oh, one thing you may want to make sure you do when you're using door panels is make sure you have your laser out and not your grapple, because the same button for force push, which will dislodge these panels from the wall and render them useless, is also the same button for doing this. And sometimes the game might miss the context of what you were trying to do and completely mess you over in that regard.
Airlock pressure levels dropping.
Okay, so the interior of the ship, at least in the cargo area, was not pressurized at all. Now, first things first, when you get inside these ships, see that glowing purple pipe? That is a fuel line. You want to purge the fuel line before you try to remove the thruster assemblies, because if you don't, it'll start a fire that'll lead back to the reactor, and that big boom you saw earlier will, well, you get the idea. So, you come up here to this thing. I already had a key on me. So yeah, you'll see that the purple lights on that purple pipe went out. The blue one is still active. You want that one to stay active until the last minute when it comes to getting the reactor out, for reasons you'll soon see very clearly. Now, these cargo containers are attached directly to the hull plates, so we'll need to dislodge them before we remove the hull plates. We're just going to go to each of them one by one. Oh, wait. Speaking of the mistakes I said I was going to make, I forgot to check to see if this in here was pressurized. And oh, look at that. Of course it is. That could be a problem.
Oxygen reserves are low. Reminder, asphyxiation
Your oxygen
can lead to
reserves are
missed
low.
salvage quotas.
Okay, so this is the part where we go back to the thingamabob to get more of the stuff. God, this spacesuit can be hard to control sometimes.
Oxygen reserves are critical. Affordable oxygen supplies are available for purchase at the Master Jack.
This is the thing she's talking about, by the way.
Welcome to Venditron 9000. Thank
So
you
let's
for
see, we
your
need some
purchase.
Oxygen levels
oxygen.
stabilizing.
Thank you
We
for your
used one
purchase.
energy key already.
Thank you for your purchase.
I know I'm going to use 2 repair kits when I end this shift, or when this shift ends, so yeah. That's another thing, your tools degrade over time. In fact, the laser degrades by 1% with every activation, so yeah. Of that, be mindful. Okay. So, the next step, we need to sit still, damn it. Next step is we need to remove some of these outer hull plates. Now, this coolant pipe runs right along through here. You gotta be very, very goddamn careful not to nick it. Because if you do, you'll start a reactor meltdown. That was close. Now when you remove these cut points, what you're going to end up eventually doing is actually disconnecting those hull plates from the rest of the ship. This one's going to be a bitch. Or not. Oh, look at that. The hull plates are already starting to come apart. Okay, so now that those are free floating, we're going to go ahead and go outside the safe way. Oh, by the way, that list on the right-hand side of the screen, that's the work order with the list of objectives I got to complete. So let's see, what all do I have listed there? I need to salvage all 3 of the thrusters. There are 17 mechanical components that need to be salvaged, but there's actually probably more mechanical components than that. Salvage nanocarbon. That's the outer hull. Cargo hatches, it says there's 3 of them that need to be salvaged to complete the objective, but there's actually 4 door segments in total. Salvage fuel, salvage the sensor arrays, salvage 4 atmospheric regulators. There are at least 2 data drives, 10 shipping crates, and salvage rail guides. But instead of saying how many rail guides, it says 855 kilograms worth of rail guides, which is basically the stuff that the things that the mechanical hoists ride along. Okay, so once you get out here, best way to see which segments of hull you disconnected is to look for gaps like that. Because they wouldn't be there if the ship was operating normally. So you're going to want to go ahead and tether those into the processor because they're too heavy to move with just the grapple by itself. For some reason the furnace has a bigger tractor field than the processor does, so if you're not careful, something will look like it's going to go into the processor and then will come back out and end up in the furnace.
Valuable object processed. Credits awarded.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and close the work order for now. So we're going to go ahead and grab some of these shipping crates out of here and get them out of the way. Hopefully none of them impact that coolant pipe. That'll be very unfortunate if they do.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
So actually what we're going to do, just to be on the safe side, is we're going to grab some of these containers and we're going to bring them outside the ship before we put tethers on them.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Actually, for shits and giggles, let's see what happens when we don't pull them out.
Salvage deposit accepted.
Ooh, that was
Credits
close.
transferred.
Which in a way is kind of its own fun. Okay, so
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
yeah, that one is still very much attached. So we're gonna have to go ahead and come down here and cut away some more stuff. Oh, while I'm here, you're going to notice that some of these cut points have sort of a green shield thing around them. The only way to break those is you have to physically impact them with something. which, considering its closeness to the coolant line, is not really the safest thing, because whatever it is that you use your grapple to push into those things to break them could also bounce off and hit the coolant line. And if that happens, boom. So we're going to go ahead and grab these containers and we're going to send them down to the barge. I like this sort of like space hillbilly music they got going on for this whole operation here.
Processing valuable object. Credits awarded.
There we go.
Salvage deposit accepted.
Okay.
Credits transferred.
Oh, in fact, right there, these are perfect for breaking those green cut points and turning them into the yellow ones that actually can be cut. Because, believe it or not, you don't actually get any kind of reward for salvaging those, even though they go on the barge. So, yeah, they're perfect for things that can only be removed by busting them apart.
Welcome to Venditron 9000. Thank you for your purchase.
Okay.
Oxygen levels stabilizing.
Need oxygen. Need some more tethers.
Have a nice day.
Now, your tools actually won't stop working when their condition reaches 0, but rather there are certain things that are undesirable that happen when they do reach 0. Like, for instance, the split saw function on your laser cutter will actually have a recoil so hard that it will, even with your thruster brakes on, will send you careening into the nearest object. And oh, good, got some of those ventral plates.
Object accepted for processing. Credits deposited.
Now, something I found very strange is that sometimes hull panels won't disconnect until after you cut points that have nothing to do with the panel you're trying to cut away. So, like, for all intents and purposes, this panel right here should be free to go in the processor. But watch, somehow it either won't go or it might try to drag the whole ship with it. Or it might actually go this time. How about that?
Valuable object processed. Credits deposited.
Again, guys, sorry about the crappy frame rate. For some reason, this happens whenever I'm recording, and only when I'm recording. Need a new computer, that's what I need.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Okay, so that thumbs up thing right there means I completed the salvage shipping crate objective, but I'm going to go ahead and salvage all of them because I don't want them in my way.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred. Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Okay, is that all of them? That better have been all of them.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
Okay. Ooh. Those are actually worth a pretty penny. Need to be careful with it though. Because somehow, despite the fact that all it is just a heat sink, these things will explode with coolant if they're damaged. Which I don't care if that happens on the barge, because once the barge logs it in, it's permanently there.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Okay. What do we got going on up here? Oh yeah, that's the heat spreader. Now, interestingly enough, the heat spreader goes into the processor, but it's permanently integrated with an aluminum panel that cannot be separated from. So, oh yeah, the data drives are in there, aren't they?
Air pressure level decreasing.
Good, nothing flew out and hit the reactor. So what we're gonna do is this. We're gonna come over here. We're gonna close the door so that nothing that comes sucking out of these rooms will get sucked out that other door and hit the reactor and start a uncontrolled reactor meltdown. Okay, so this is the room where the engine control unit is. There actually is no way to use a key to purge the coolant lines, even though there is a... God damn it, quit moving. Even though there is that keyhole right there. Instead, what you do to purge the coolant lines is you use your grapple to pull this here panel off. And then you reach in there and you remove those 3 coolant tanks, which then starts a controlled meltdown process on the reactor. That gives you about roughly a minute to get it onto the barge, if even that. So let's go ahead and extract these here. Now these are the data drives I was telling you about, the thing where you can recover audio logs and things like that.
Warning, oxygen reserves are low.
Oh,
Air
look,
pressure
there's
level
another
decreasing.
one. Now, this is what I was talking about when I said that you can actually, like, come into one of these rooms and use it to recharge your oxygen.
Oxygen reserves are critical. Please contact your plan administrator to
Come
have
on.
asphyxiation coverage.
Yeah, for some reason it's not wanting to work. Also, I've noticed that in these sort of like stressful situations, your character becomes really hard to control. Yeah, that oxygen regulator was actually supposed to repressurize the room once the door was shut.
Welcome to Vendatron 9000.
And for whatever reason, it never
Oxygen
did.
level stabilizing.
Thank you for your purchase. Have a nice day.
Okay, so near as I can tell, I've depressurized the entire interior of the ship, which means I can now, at least in that regard, cut with impunity. And I don't have to worry about some free-floating object coming out and randomly smashing into something important. Okay, so now we're ready to salvage the thrusters. Now that the fuel lines are purged. This is a very delicate operation right here. Oh yeah. Alright, so now these actually go into the processor. And it's not going to go in. Get in there.
Valuable object processed. Credits awarded.
These things can actually be removed. Although not with a grapple. They can be removed by a tether, though. There we go. Oh no, that's gonna end up in the furnace.
Valuable object processed. Credits deposited.
But yeah, it's like once something gets past that little yellow line right there, some sort of like tractor beam force kind of thing will pull it in. And
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred. Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
there we go.
Salvage deposit accepted.
Okay,
Credits
so that's
transferred.
that objective down. We salvaged all 3 thrusters. Okay, so I think next we'll tackle the sensor arrays, because those are otherwise a fairly easy thing to grab. Figures that one damn airlock hatch would get in my way. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and cut this one loose. so that one should be free. Or not. Oh, I see. Now the other one is on the dorsal hull, so...
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Alright. There it is. This rail guide here is in the way. So what we're going to do here is we're going to determine if there is a hoist on this here rail guide, and well, there don't appear to be, so we're just going to go ahead and cut this sucker loose and throw it into the nearest processor port.
Warning. Your oxygen reserves are dropping below statistically profitable levels.
You're below statistically profitable levels. Okay. So we gotta take care of this crap again. Now, on this whole free open shift thing where there's technically no
Oxygen
time
level
limit,
stabilizing.
two things will make me basically end a shift and do this thing in multiple parts. First one is if my tools break, because once their condition drops to 0, they can have really undesirable effects when you use them in that condition. And second is if health gets low. That one. Okay, that should be the only thing holding this rail guide in place. Okay, so we got to get this thing out and around the coolant line. God, I wish this flashlight worked a little bit better. Oh, no, 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 no. Don't go in the furnace. Good.
Processing
Good.
valuable object. Credits awarded.
Okay. So now we can get that other sensor array. Wow, I got almost all of the required amount of rail guide from just that one. That means I could probably just cut off a segment of the other rail guide and throw it in there, and I'd be good. Oh yeah. Okay, so because of the strong pull of the furnace that is right there, we're just gonna let that float over ever so slowly. And then we're going to rip it down towards the furnace. Or not the furnace, the barge. The barge, not the furnace. The barge.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
Okay. So I think now the next logical step is we're going to go ahead and prepare for salvaging the reactor. Okay, so this is easily one of the more delicate aspects of this whole mess. We need to get out of the way anything that can pose a potential risk of causing a meltdown. We might need to separate this hull segment here. I think we might have to actually get these cargo doors out of the way. Which that's no big deal, right? Oh, come on. What the hell? There we go. Okay, so these should be pretty much free floating now. Nope, they're still attached to something.
Warning, oxygen reserves are low.
Oh boy, you don't say. I'd say my laser's about in need of repair, so I think this is where we're going to go ahead and cut this video short for now, or at least cut it off. Next video, we will do the successful salvage of a reactor, or at least we will try to. So,
Welcome to Venditron 9000.
wait, why am I buying oxygen?
Have a nice day.
I'm just going to go ahead and end the shift now. Okay, So that is what a typical shift looks like, and then this here is the end of shift summary. So let's see here. We recovered $1,113,000 worth of cargo. The thrusters were $1.35 million as a set. So yeah. So I basically shaved off 3.7 mil, which makes it 920 million 50 cents. Good morning, Shipbreaker. Now, as I was saying, this is the thing that you have to pay, where you have to like pay bills at the end of every shift. So when you work your way up through the ranks, like I already said, there were some components of my equipment that I did own. I still have to pay for this, or buy the suit, the grapple, the cutter. Yeah. And then resurrection fee is like 150 grand for every time you get killed on the job. Wow, the cutter, the rental for the laser cutter is $120,000. Now, we did recover 3 data drives, so this is what that thing, or part of it, looks like. And if you look up here where it says LT, once this is done, we'll go up to 1339. So, what did we find? Ah.
There's a serenity that always comes when we do a haul for Mars. Sitting above the planes, you can see the 10-kilometer asteroids being hauled in from the belt.
Really?
They park them in a real soft, dreamy orbit, and
Dreamy,
then cutters
you say?
come out, chopping them up into smaller pieces, identifying the metal chunks and then dropping them into a heat shield payload.
Really?
The heat shields themselves are several kilometers in radius, and once you've got enough materials to tuck in behind it, they begin the process of re-entry.
Mm-hmm.
The sky fills up with flames, and you see another $1 trillion payload dropping down to fill the accounts on Olympus. There's something real special here.
You don't say. Let's check the next one.
Well, Cap, I figured out what your problem is, and you ain't gonna like it. Looks like it's the sarcophagus. Thing's got hairline fractures down the belly, and it's leaking radiation faster than anything I've seen in 40 years of flight. A new reactor, that's going to set you back, oh, I don't know. 50,000 credits? Then there's labor. Now me, once I have the darn thing, I can get her done within 72 hours if you want my crew working fast. Working regular, 6 days most likely, to get her all in, and tested. But you have my guarantee that it will last you twice what the manufacturer warranty provides. That's the best guarantee you're gonna find in all of Mars Village. Anyone else either gonna string you along and ask for more, or give you a patch job.
Oh, don't want that.
You don't want a patch job, less, and you want some of your crew to sprout any new appendages. Let me know what you think, Cass. You know how to get a hold of me.
Ooh, what do we got here?
It has come to my attention that some of you believe that you are my peers, equals. Allow me to disabuse you of this notion.
Disabuse.
You are my crew, and this is my ship. And aboard this ship, you do what I say, when I say it, with no questions, no insubordination, and no doubt. When I chose you to work for me, I did so because I believed you would trust me implicitly and would carry out my commands to the last order. We deliver cargo here. We do not perform concerts, we do not host raves, and we certainly do
Sounds
not
like a
imbibe
fun
any
ship.
mind-altering substances. I expect you to be the best of the best. When I awoke to your intolerable racket, I was enraged. I was. But I am a merciful captain. I'm giving you all a second chance.
I
There
think this
will
is one
be
of the ones
no
that they did
music
an actual
aboard this vessel,
voiceover actor for.
unless that music is from the Baroque era. Should you wish to entertain yourselves when you are off duty, and aboard my ship you are never truly off duty, I have copies of Moby Dick and Ben-Hur available to be borrowed, so long as you take the utmost care with them. If you are found with any personal books you have illegally brought aboard my ship, they will be spaced, no matter what the title. As long as you are aboard my ship, I am your captain and you are my crew. We are not friends here.
Boy, that sounds like a real fun ship to serve on, doesn't it? Okay. How much closer am I on my certifications here? Well, that one got a bit closer. Alright, so that is HardSpace Ship Breaker. I'm, of course, the Sage of Games, and I will probably be doing another part of this video because, like I said, we didn't actually see the successful removal of a Class 2 reactor, which is actually a lot harder than a Class 1 because everything has to be done within a certain timing, otherwise. So what I'll probably do is for the next video, I will be working on another gecko. I will get to where I'm ready to remove the reactor, and then I'll start that video there so that we can at least see that part in action. In the meantime, I'm the Sage of Games. This is, like I already said, not 30 seconds ago, this has been HardSpace Ship Breaker, and I will see you guys in my next video. Ciao.